like a bird that's flying away, that's soaring through the air and is crashing down against the rain. Well, it's almost over, and it's coming in trains. I'm looking forward to going insane. You can check my papers, you can pick my brain, 'cause they're going nowhere when you're going insane. Falling over like a log, hallucinating that we've abandoned them all, like a story long ago, told by Henry D. Thoreau. We cannot conceive of man actuated by a moon. Well, it's almost over, and it's coming in trains. I'm looking forward to going insane. And you can check my papers, and you can pick my brain, 'cause they're going nowhere when you're going insane. Stranger for me comes right toward me, and lies will be true when I lie with you. Stranger for me comes right toward me, and lies will be true when I lie with you. Well, it's almost over, and it's coming in trains. I'm looking forward to going insane. And you can check my papers, and you can pick my brain, 'cause they're going nowhere when you're going insane.
It's the Crump alive!
Mr. Crumb was realized.
We'll do it live. We'll do it live!
3, 2, 1.
Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed. She was looking kind of dumb with her finger and her thumb in the shape of an L on her forehead. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on.
All right. What up? Run Boston Bear in the house. Welcome. Good morning. How you doing?
Hey man, thanks for having me. Doing well.
All right. I'm excited to be here with you, man, because I just met you and you came on my show the other day and had a good chance to get to know you. And if you guys are listening to this and you aren't in the Illest Telegram chat, there is t.me Crumb chat. Check it out. Started the show off here with a song from my album called Insane, and it's about when you start thinking you might be insane because you start seeing things, you start seeing a reality that to you makes sense, but when you look for assurance with your friends and loved ones, you get a different response, and you don't know if you're being gaslit by the world or your friends, and it's an isolating feeling that a lot of truthers have to go through, and initially feels like it doesn't feel good. It feels like there's a lot of despair, but luckily, as we've learned, that at the finish line, it actually is much better. And you come out stronger and more aware of our reality when we start to find our like-minded friends who have gone through similar journeys. Because everybody's on their own path, and nobody can wake up at the same time. And so, Run Boston Bear, you had to kind of expedite a lot of your awakenings and the lockdowns. I'm going to say lockdowns instead of saying the C word, if you don't mind.
Oh yeah,
Because
sure.
we're on precious YouTube here.
Yeah, I know about it.
The lockdowns definitely expedited that. And not only did it expedite it just through some of the deceptions of what happened the last few years, you were able to go beyond that and go all the way to the finish line. You got your running outfit on. You're like, you go fast.
Yeah, man.
And I think that's really cool, man. I think you're kind of like exactly what every truther was hoping they would find. Like, you're like, yes, this is what we were trying to make. We were trying to get everybody to like come to this conclusion, see it, accept it, be okay with it, know that there's a community that will uplift you and relate, and it's not so doom and gloom. And you have a disposition about you where it doesn't seem like you, I don't know, like hit like you don't have like 15 years of why don't you see it like under your belt, which makes it way more healthy for you.
Yeah.
I wish I had that. And so anyways, welcome to the show. And if you can, like, is there anything you'd like to start with on your journey, like specifically?
Yeah. I'll just tell everybody kind of how the awakening process started, kind of who I am too. First things first, I'm not from Boston. A lot of people are like, are you from Boston? I just have the name Run Boston Bear because I've run the Boston Marathon 10 years in a row so far. I was there.
Really?
Yeah. So this April will be the 11th year for me to run the Boston Marathon. My wife's
Now,
gonna go with
was
me.
that the one with did you do the one?
That was my first one the year.
Wow. Now, did you see it? Was there any?
I didn't get close enough to the bad spot, but I heard it, and my dad was there to visit with me, and he was like, what was that? Because we were inside Panera Bread. I had already finished, and he thought a helicopter crashed. It was a clear day. We knew it wasn't thunder, and so we went outside and cop cars were going crazy and they were ushering us, go that way, go that way. And one weird thing is I had my phone and I was like, like what's going on? And I was trying to check Twitter and I was trying to like text and call. I had full signal, full bars, and I couldn't get a text, receive a text, make a call, get a call, because people started calling me immediately. So I found out later that there's a kill switch at all major events. Like any huge sporting arena, there's like people standing by just to boom, cell phones off in case there's like a bad thing that's being set off by cellular networks. You know what I'm saying?
I did not know that. So as soon as there's a tragedy and people really need to communicate, they just shut off the communication.
Well,
So
they
it
say
sounded like it.
they say it's for safety, and I get it. It was weird to be like, great, the first thing you're gonna
I
do.
immediately went to they're trying to control it, and you're like, no, it's just for safety. It's fine.
That's
yeah.
funny. So, yeah, Boston's big. It's important to me. I love going. I love going back and racing the race. I'm 42. My name's JT, and I live in East Texas. So I just moved back to East Texas probably a couple years ago. Reconnected with a friend that I went to high school with. I've known him since I was 14. We used to do a lot of BMX bike riding and hanging. He's a regenerative farmer, and so I'm just minding my own business. Like literally, I'm kind of into the truther game, but not searching things out. Just never thought that the stuff in New York was valid. I was like, what in the world would cause like free fall speeds? And like the whole thing to me was like, this is really weird. I kind of have always been like, that doesn't make sense. I don't trust it. That's weird. And then I just move on. You know what I mean?
But ultimately, like, what if it doesn't make sense? Then, like, you have to think, oh, then it's our government, and then that's when usually the curiosity kind of like you either have to kind of go down it or not, because it's a scary realization. But I was in the same boat. I didn't think it made sense, but I didn't. It didn't like make. I didn't overthink it. And not until later.
Yeah. And then before this big like true earth awakening happened, I always knew the powers that be, like the president or the leaders of the countries or Democrats versus Republican. I always knew that was just kind of a show. Like I never thought that was real life. I thought it was just a game or a system in place that works. And like people are going to be like, how dare you? You got to love our country. Well, I love our country and I love being an American. And here's the thing. I love relationship, like friends. I like having good meals around friends and talking stories and making memories and living life. And I love our country, but for some reason, the systems that we're supposed to trust, I was like, I don't know, man. It looks like big pharma is just about making money and nobody's getting healthy. Nobody's getting better from the drugs. And then I was like, what is this food industry thing all about? Because I've been an endurance athlete my whole life. And it's like, I want to eat clean. I want my body to feel good. And then you look at ingredients and you're like, well, that's poison and that's toxic. Why is that in there? What's this color for? So like throughout my life, I've always been, like it's suspect what they're putting in food. Why are they doing that? Even like how they're treating the land or how they're treating animals. You're not supposed to plant crops year after year after year and just hammer the ground because you don't get the nutrients in the strawberries or whatever anymore. So I know this may sound trippy, but when you go to the grocery store and you walk around and you look at all the produce, what you see in front of you is literally the idea of those fruits. Because if you go back like 100 or so years, 200 years, it would taste so much better. It'd be packed with nutrition. But now it's just all like raped and pillaged. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I do. Like I have a tangerine tree at my house that grows naturally, and when I eat those, like I feel my entire body replenished. Like it's because it's organic. It's not. I don't know. It's part of nature, and I'm like, if there is a lockdown again and we can't get food, I'm like, I have a tangerine tree. I'm fine. I could just live off this because but like, I don't think I get the same from fruit in the store. Now, there is definitely something about the food. And I went down that road too, like, because once I get kind of onto something, I'll go to the extreme. So I went from like, McDonald's every day to to master cleanse and only shopping at Whole Foods and making sure everything was certified organic.
Mhm.
And then I found a little place right in the middle where I'm like, okay, I went a little far there, but yeah, it's important to recognize that these institutions that we've been taught, like, we're put there not for money, not for financial gain, not for any selfish reasons or corruptible reasons. They actually are, or they have the potential to. So we have to be a little more cautious about what we're given. You know, we kind of
Mhm.
just assume, oh well, if it's in the store, you know, they're so cautious. They make us wear a mask for 2 years. Of course, the food's going to be good if they care this much about us. You know, kind of mentality. And that's just not the case. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. And by the
Yeah.
way, the Boston bombing thing. So you were there the first year, you saw them explode. There was an explosion
Mhm.
and people died, and you're like, all right, I'm coming to this every
No.
every month after that. Like was that like the deciding factor to make you go there like 11 years?
That's kind of not how, well, for personally, at first I was freaked out, like what in the world just happened so close to me? Because my dad, he was in the circle of ground zero because it happened right by the finish line. I finished in 3 hours and 5 seconds, and the bombs went off at 4 hours and 9 minutes. And my dad was right there. He filmed me coming through the finish line, and I told my dad, like, don't worry about coming to see me. Don't come find me right away because it's going to take me a while to make the block. So when he walked away from the danger zone, 45 minutes later, as he stepped away, is when it went off, and that's when we were in Panera Bread eating. So, you know, there's a news article where we got interviewed, and the FBI wanted our memory card off my dad's camera because they were like looking for the suspects and such. So it's a pretty crazy story. And actually, it wasn't until I was flying home that I was like, dang, what in the world just happened? Because if you think about it, somebody that makes it to Boston, lifelong athlete, I ran, you know, cross country and track in third grade, ran all the way up through college. Like for a runner, Boston's like the Super Bowl of all marathons. It's actually the oldest marathon in the United States. And to make it, like the eureka is to make it. And yeah, I was 5 seconds short of breaking 3 hours at Boston my first time, which, you know, if you're a marathoner, breaking 3 hours is kind of like a hard little
Wow, five
victory.
seconds.
So if you think about it personally, like I had this highlight of my life moment and then bombs, and they stopped the race. Like the bombs went off at 4 hours and 9 minutes, and they literally just stopped people, and they all got, you know, clogged up, and they said, you can't go to the finish. So for the people that didn't even get to finish, and it was their first year and they flew in from overseas and stuff, it was pretty emotional. You know, of course you feel bad for those that got hurt or lost their lives, you know, if that was a real deal, because you never know with anything that's going on in the world how much of it is actually the truth or what else is it, you know. And I'm not saying it is or isn't, but
It isn't. But we could do a whole other show on that.
I
But
know that whole thing. Well, I'm flying home and it hits me like, dude, my dad was standing right there. Regardless, he was standing right there. And I'm like, I'm not going back. Like, I'm not going back. But then what hit me was, I'm not going to let fear have control over my mind and my decisions. And I said, I'm going
that's
back.
good.
And I went back, and that was year number 2. And then I went back, and it was like 3 years in a row. And then if you go 10 years in a row, you get in this legacy group where you don't have to qualify by as many, you know, by as big a margin. Because you have to qualify to get in. And then once you hit 25 years, you're invited back without even qualifying anymore. So I'm kind of one of those crazy people that have the goal of, like, when I'm 55, having run Boston 25 years in a row. So, you know, I didn't want my dream to stop. And then I wanted to come back for those that couldn't run, you know, if there are people that were hurt. And yeah, I just kind of let the fear just melt away. One thing I'll tell you, Crum, is the year I went, the first year in 13, it was so chill and so fun, and everybody was walking around. The whole city just absolutely loves and welcomes all the runners. And then the next year, you would have lost your mind at the, like, stop here, let me check your bag, and no, you can't go there, and like just everything that was put in place completely stopped. The free flowing, like, you couldn't walk, you couldn't go anywhere. Everything had roadblocks, and the whole system was just really nuts. the first year,
Yeah.
the second year.
I mean, I understand. I remember when that happened, it was, it was on par with, I wouldn't say 9/11, but like pretty close to how much it impacted like the news and, it's all that was talked about for a few days. And to the point where, the kid who supposedly did it, like his face was plastered all over like Rolling Stone magazine, or like all the girls liked him, and they made him look like he was some like like
Yeah.
hipster hero, and that didn't make any sense. I mean, that one's a weird one, and well, so for the most part, you're a healthy dude. The Boston bombings, like
Mm-hmm.
like that was something at the time I didn't, like my son seemed weird, but didn't really. But
Yeah.
let me ask you this: like, did your interest in some of the when did it really start becoming more of like in the forefront of your like daily activities, as far as like, oh, I need to uh see the world differently and accept a different reality.
Yeah.
Like, when did it was that something that was ever like an interest of yours, like a side hobby before COVID?
No, I didn't look. I didn't really look into anything at all. So I'll, the whole episode, like while we're even talking, I'll get you fast tracked to why I started truth.
Oh, if you got something before it, man,
No,
I just
no,
was
this is a good segue. So,
okay.
that first Boston, my wife and I had just gotten married. We were rocking and rolling, doing life. It was just she and I, and we just started like cranking out babies. So I'm a stay-at-home dad. I've got three
Nice.
kids, 6, 4, and 2. And so if you think about like the stay-at-home dad life, you're super busy with kids and taking care of kids all day and this and that. So I would just leapfrog like Boston and then the kids. And Boston was my main event. I've done some Ironman too. I've done 6 Ironman. So training, taking care of the kiddos, taking care of my wife, that just kind of like consumed my life. It's all I could do. Didn't look at politics, didn't really watch TV much, just was kind of plugged into health and vitality and just like living. Well, so I moved back here to my hometown, and I sent out this image on Instagram, and it was like the ball Earth was like this big, and then it had the sun like this big next to it. It was one of those memes, and then it showed like a black hole like this big with the sun like that big, and then some, it just kept showing like the stepping stone process in the universe. I
Yeah.
sent it out to people and I was like, hey man, this is awesome. Isn't God good? It's just the grand nature. The grand nature of the universe is so big. God's powerful. And that's it, because I'm a believer. And, a lot of people responded and said, oh yeah, man, right on. I love that. Oh yeah, the power, the sheer magnitude of the outer space. And that's it. Except for one friend, my friend that I rode BMX bike with in high school. He said, I don't think any of that is scientifically provable, and I actually think it's science fiction. Bam. And I thought, what's he talking about? Like, what is he talking about? And so
Yeah.
I said, like, what do you mean? Because I had never heard about flat Earth in my life, never even heard about it. And he sent me a Matt Long video called Dear Pastor, and like an Eric Dubay
Hmm.
video. And I was just kind of like, whoa. And it showed a little bit of NASA tomfoolery. And so, of course, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to message my best friend. And I was like, hey, dude, do you remember this guy from high school? He just sent me these videos. This is like weird, dude. What do you think? And he laughed so hard. He just cracked up and was like, that dude's an idiot. Don't even think about that anymore.
Right.
But I couldn't not think about it, because I've looked into stuff before, and I was like, okay, let me see. And I was Googling some stuff, and then I saw stuff popping up that was, I kind of got a mixture of real stuff and debunk stuff. And I was like, well, why are they debunking? Like, what's this about? And I just started digging. While I was digging, my best friend was digging, and we weren't talking about it. And I'm looking, and anyway, long story short, he calls me 3 weeks later and he's like, dude, we need to look into this. This looks like crazy. It looks like the earth is flat. And I was like, what are you talking about? He went flat within 3 weeks because he studied super hard. And being a stay-at-home dad, I had time. I had quite a bit of time to research, because I think one of the big problems that people have is they're so busy with their lives, and they're so busy with the mundane and the stress and the anxiety, got to make the paycheck, got to take care of a lot of stuff. They don't actually have time to research.
No,
So
they don't.
easy
Yeah,
for
that's a
them to
good point.
default to, oh, it is what they told us it is. So it took me 3 months. It took me 3 months before I was like, okay, it is flat. You know what I mean?
What a beautiful 3 months that was, right? I mean, at a certain point, you have to go from you look at the sun, and it's like that's 93 million miles away, and then there's one day when you have to be like right there on that line and go, no, it's not. It's right there, and it's literally your world changes. It's
Yeah.
like it's scary, man. So you have a friend who's kind of like open to it. I had friends like that too, that I thought would be so jazzed for me to show them flat Earth,
Yeah.
and I can, and then they're like, "Oh no, that guy is so stupid," and then they start saying NASA facts and start saying things that don't make sense, but have like Google searchable bullshit, like like, no, look at this, and it's really hard to argue back with that, because you understand that's lying to you, and then you just come off like a kook, and you don't really, there's nothing much you can do. But so you continued to go, and you didn't. Were you able to talk to anybody about this who saw it too? When was the first time you got to do that?
Well, the guy that told me about it had been on this truther journey for 5 years. And this is the crazy thing, is
Oh, that's right.
he was going 5 years with nobody to talk to about it. And he, when you learn about flat Earth, you start seeing like all the other deceptions start to flow in. It's almost like you can just see through the veil, or like the veil's lifted, and you're like, oh my gosh, nothing's real, or like history's not real. They're lying about that. Watch out for that. I mean, it can be a pretty scary.
You became a flat earther before you kind of realized the other ones, so that's interesting. Like so flat earth kind of just did all the hard work kind of for you, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's kind of weird, because like to be honest with you, I had no idea about the people in higher up positions that were, mean or evil to kids. I didn't even know about it. Didn't have a clue. So before flat Earth, I was just a happy-go-lucky guy that had a pretty hard, like high school was really hard for me because I never really clicked into any groups. I just love people. Like I wanted to talk to everybody, preps, nerds, jocks, special needs kids, all ethnicities or whatever. I was like, hey, well, how are you doing today? You having a good day? And like, I just kind of flowed all throughout the whole campus, and people were like, they were like, man, you're so gay. Why are you so gay? And I got bullied and picked on and called all kind of names because I was different and I was empathetic towards people. Like I basically could feel if they were having a good day and we were in conversation, and I was like, hey, how you doing today, man? And they're like, oh, I'm doing okay. And I mean, obviously I could tell they weren't doing okay.
Yeah.
Also, people always wanted to pour out truth or their life to me. They're just like, this is what I'm going through. It's having such a hard time.
Dude,
like,
I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, it could be like the person in the, like behind the line of DMV. It's like, I know, like, oh, let me tell you, here's their story. I know that. I dude, that's funny you say that. When's your birthday, if you mind me asking?
July 18th.
All right, you're a Cancer. What? And that's 81, I assume. You said you're
80.
41.
80.
80, right on. So, all right, yeah, cool. Well, yeah, that's a water sign, so you're gonna feel a lot of empathy, and you're gonna that's pretty. But we don't have to go down there. So you've always just been you always got along with everybody, and people like that. They trust you to like divulge a lot of their inner feelings and stuff, and because you come off as a pretty open guy, and respectful of everybody else's place in life, so you are definitely a good candidate. What really makes me happy to hear, though, is because most flat earthers, because flat earth is so new. I mean, it's not really. But the reason why it like re-emerged really was because of technology,
Yeah.
the Nikon camera, and that allowed enough of a foundation for curious minds to pursue it. Again, I think without that camera, it would have been really hard to get this momentum going.
Yeah.
And so really, I mean, 2014, like that's it. You said your friend was a flat earther for 5 years, so he probably was around then. And I know that's when I was 2016, and my desperation to talk to people about it, like your friend probably was really, really high, to the point where I probably, I don't know, gave away, I don't know, but I probably put a little too much emphasis in it because I would talk to anybody, and anybody. I'm just like, I started viewing people as like not so much as their character anymore. I'm like, are you someone that's gonna let me talk flat Earth, or are you not cool? Like I just like I couldn't help be like, anybody who will talk flat Earth with me is instantly 20 million points in my book, and because I was so, I'm like, I know I'm not crazy, like damn it, and I got to a point where I'm like, either I'm crazy, but like I got to a point where I'm like, I know there's no way this is going away. Like I tried to debunk it, so I just said, okay, it'll seem crazy now, it'll seem isolating now, but there's zero chance that this won't get easier and more people won't see it. And sure enough, like what I thought then and what I predicted then did happen, but it was scarier at the time. I had no way of knowing. It's like knowing that a stock's going to do well in a year. Like if you don't know, you don't know. You kind of just have this unsettling, I don't know, maybe there's just one proof that I've just been crazy the whole time, and then I'll apologize to all my friends. but I didn't sign off on it until I was specifically just 100% sure. Now, but that came after a long time of researching things that kind of debilitated me a little bit. That was a lot more low vibey, like you said, the elitist with what they do behind the shadows, and the health thing, and learning that the health might not all be as cracked up as we thought. Like, why is bread on the pyramid? And so all these things were like, oh my God, it's worse than I thought. Oh my God, it's worse than I thought. Oh my God, it's worse than I thought. But like flat Earth, kind of like, it seemed like you bought the cow and or you bought the farm, and like so all the other things came with it, and you went a little backwards. And and that's kind of what I always thought would happen with flat Earth. It's like the best way to wake people up to anything, whether especially like 2020, is not, hey, they're lying about this, the lethal injection is not what you think it. All these things are more fear-based and makes them feel stupid. But if you can convince somebody of flat Earth, like you don't really need to talk 9/11 anymore. Like once you become a flat Earther, all that stuff just kind of handles it yourself. And I think that's just wonderful. You are proof in the pudding, because the flat Earth thing is, I was an atheist, so I was an atheist learning all these deceptions, and so it made my life way more, I don't know, like scary. And so the fact that there was a positive spin at the end is great, but like the fact that people can get to where you are and where I am without having to do it the hard way is really reassuring, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure.
So what I'd like to do is ask you, can you tell me about your lockdown experience? Like from like March 2020, and just kind of tell me where your mindset was during all that, and how it changed, and what you did.
Oh man, from then to now, it's so crazy. Um,
Yeah. We all got one story. That's what's great. Is that like
my
everybody has a good story.
Yeah, right. My wife's dad was warning us of this virus. He had heard that this bad like virus was coming around, and we were like, whatever. Like, okay. Well, we didn't think like what he was telling us was whatever, but we were like, oh, okay. And then of course everybody saw things get worse and worse, and the stuff on the news and what things happening and how scary it really was. They were saying and the deaths and the sicknesses, and then just the crazy stuff with the ventilators and people not being able to pull through. And we're like, oh my gosh.
The videos of people falling down, like, when you saw that, did that make you afraid? Did that scare you?
See, I didn't really. This is what's wild about it is I really don't watch TV or news. I just don't like it. It just seems like it's programming. I mean, I always kind of have known that. So we were surviving it, I guess just like medical necessity. So like if they were saying to wear a mask, we were like, well, okay. Every time I put it on though, I was just kind of like, this is so weird. Like I didn't believe that it was like air was coming all in and out around it. And it was just moist. I had a bigger beard and I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Like that this is going to stop a virus or slow the spread. But I did it anyway to be a good citizen. And sadly, I got Pfizer 1 and 2, which I don't know if I can say that word, but thank God, had no adverse effects. I'm still running. I mean, I bet I got placebo or whatever. I just got lucky.
I don't think those. I think it's more like a Russian roulette, and you got lucky.
Yeah.
If I was gonna say my own, because especially since you're a runner, like my dad got it, and because he's on so many blood thinners and doesn't exercise, I think that's like a saving grace.
Yeah.
You're fine. I do have to ask though, and I want to make sure. I think a lot of people are afraid to come out, who have taken these things, because they're afraid of the backlash from a community, and that's horrible. That makes me feel so bad because yes, there has been a community that's just been screaming at those who were like pushing it. And I'm not saying you were, but you were just trying to go. You did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And but what sucks is I feel like a lot of people are probably do see what you see, but don't have. I don't know that they don't have the ability to. They might be so afraid of the "Hey, I told you so," and that nonsense from a community. And honestly, like more truthers, if you're like any decent truther would never do that. And if anybody ever makes you feel bad for that, like tell them like they're a fake truther. They are they are only there to spread negative bullshit. Like a true truther should be so open arms and hugging, and because that's exactly what any real truther was trying to accomplish. They should be excited.
Yeah.
So I hope you feel completely safe with that, and know that you're in a community of people that truly do, that they're happy that that you're that you can see it and that it's possible, and you are proof in the pudding that there are that not to give up on some of the people at this point, like, because it's so easy for us to be like, oh, they're just gone, I'm never gonna see it. It's like, well, if we with that mentality, if we act like that and say, yeah, you're never gonna, like, then that'll be the thing. But like like there's no reason to be. It is what it is.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. I have definitely seen in basically the chats, the truther forums, that basically everyone that knows the earth is flat also knew not to take the vax. And so I'm kind of like
from the first day. Yeah. Dave Weiss, like in the very beginning, he's like, aren't you guys glad we're not afraid of COVID? Yeah. And I was like, yes, I'm glad about that. And because not for 1 second, that's the fun. That was the best part. It felt like it was like, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you're completely right. Like I felt like I was protected. Like there was no way that nonsense was coming past this moat in my
Yeah.
head,
Yeah.
because of that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that were privy to a lot of other deceptions, like maybe 9/11 and all that, like they didn't quite make it.
Yeah.
And and so you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So the talk you did for your 40th, your stream, where you basically did your stepping stones all the way to flat Earth and who you are now and like how free you are now. So you're right. I got like the big one, and then everything was backfilled. And so it is cool that I'm an anomaly. It is cool that I was asleep and didn't see it. But I will tell you this: when they rolled out the B word, the repetitive, you need more. Oh, you need another one. Oh, you need another one. Then I was like, no more, no more. Like I was at least awake enough as a human to say that doesn't make sense. I may have been fooled to get into this first bit of it, but more? What are you talking about? And I kind of started waking up to that being ridiculous. And so it was really with the flat earth stuff, it was really helpful that my friend had 5 years, because I got to ask him specific questions. My other friend, my best friend, who woke up before me, we're on Marco Polo, and we were just every day, wow, how do you think this works? And what did you find today? What did you see? And so about nature and the sun and stuff, you're talking about the P1000 or the P900. I didn't realize this, but I had not been looking at the stars or the sun or the moon, hadn't been noticing it. If I saw it, I'd be like, there's the moon, and I'd go
Me
about
too.
it.
Yeah.
But when I woke up to true Earth, now the luminaries came alive to me again, like very spiritual, very amazing. It's almost like the deception of the heliocentric model. When you're lied to your whole life from a kid all the way to an adult, you kind of don't care anymore about the stars and the sun and the moon.
Because, and none of them, that math makes sense. So when they say it's billions and billions of light years, and this is because of a tilt and a galaxy, you're just like, all right, whatever. I just gonna say I don't understand. It's too complicated for me. NASA's got it, and then when you look into it, like you realize this is just science fiction, and it's not like out of the realm of us to understand. It actually makes sense, and what we see is actually how it is. Like, how are we all convinced of something that isn't? And that's really what it is. Yeah, I completely agree. And now I know exactly like where the North Star is, and as things are moving, I'm like, okay, well, I know that when it's noon, and I look at the sun, I'm like, well, that's dead south. And I know like all the planets, they're not going to be going much farther away from the sun. So there's not like, everything started making sense. I know that like if somebody was born, like it's so cool. Like if I knew you're born July 18th, like if I did your astrology, let's say like your astrology is like says that you have a Capricorn moon. You have, let's say for example, I would know for sure that you had a full moon when you were born. Because and it's just things like that. Was just all these things were piecing together. Like I could do this. I could understand this. There's enough information. This is what they did 3,000, 6,000, 10,000 years ago. It's just, it makes sense. And it completely brought me closer to something way like to God, or even more so than what's said in the scriptures. Just like, I'm like, I just got humbled. And, I guess that's really what it is. Humbled. Yeah.
So it's really interesting to literally wake up to nature, like wake up to the universe or the firmament and the stars above, you know what I mean? And I'm not triggered. If somebody says universe and you're a flat earther, it just means all that is and all that we can understand about what.
I love universe. Universe is great. Yeah. There's no,
it's made.
Yeah.
And then so I was like, well, when did this start? And like started seeing books from 1901, and this has been a hot topic for a long time, but it's been suppressed. And it's only been 472 years or so since Copernicus came out with the heliocentric theory. That's what's so crazy is the heliocentric model is a theory today, just like gravity is a theory today. It's just like a long theory. No one can reproduce gravity. No one can manipulate gravity. It's really just an effect. So I've learned most of the really good information from Austin Whitsitt.
Yeah.
Oh, I have like a list. Like Austin Whitsitt's my go-to guy. Crow 777. I mean, like honestly, you were saying a second ago. I think the first big flat Earth movement came when Crow got the lunar wave videos. That's when it really first hit, because people were like, "Wait a minute, that was like a wave that went by, and it was always a."
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, I watched Shoot the Moon.
When that happened, people were like, "Well, what is that?" You know, like the waters above, like the waters. And wait a minute,
it almost looks like a digital glitch, though, more than anything.
In his episodes, he said that he sat on it for like a year or a year and a half because he was afraid that it was an anomaly with his camera. But he's had people forensically say, "No, dude, this, you recorded it," and many people have recorded it since, and even across Saturn and Jupiter and stuff like that. So finding out that the flat Earth battle, and I call it a battle because I do think it's spiritual in nature. I do think that they're trying to dumb down people with food, make us sick, make money off our sickness, dumb us down so that we don't know who we are. Because truly, we're powerful. Every single human being is super unique, super powerful, but they don't want us to know that. They just want us to be slaves to materialism, slaves to certain systems of thinking and moving, when honestly, it's way more beautiful to me that we don't know some things. So what I mean by that is science or NASA or astronomers or whatever, they want to say, "Oh, no, we figured it all out. It's exactly this far, and this is what it's made of. Ta-da, we're done, we're smart." They don't want to say, like, "We have no idea how far that is," or "We don't even know what it's made of," or what temperature it is. They want to say, I say it like this: we're on the ground and things are material around us. You got dirt, trees, living, organic, inorganic. And then as you go up closer to the clouds and the upper, atmosphere, and if there's a firmament, which I do believe, then you start to go into a spiritual world where our brains can't even fathom it possibly, or our words to try to describe it don't work. But no scientist that doesn't want to believe in a God or a creator, or no prideful, egotistical man wants to say, "Well, I don't know. It's awfully amazing to me, but I don't know." They can't say "I don't know." They have to say they do know. And that's one of the big problems.
Yeah. I have this theory that humanity is really, like, as a whole, that lost, like the lost bastard child that's constantly looking for their father, because we don't know how we're like the stories of the scripture is almost like, yeah, that's when dad went out for smokes and never came back, and we're just like, he's gonna come back, and like, because we don't know what the hell this is, we're like, where's dad? What is this? But you're right, like, we can, like, the amount of stuff we can learn in a lifetime maybe adds like a 0.01% more of an understanding of what is actually going on. And in reality, like, I saw this, I think it was like Sat Guru. He said, you think you know what a tree is. You don't know what a tree is. You put a name on it. You describe some of its functions, but what is it? Like, you don't know. Like, there's so much that we don't know. And I think to a certain extent, like, we want to understand this world and just put a check mark on things. And I will say that, like, what the heliocentric model does, in my opinion, is curb curiosity. Because, like we said, like, because of the heliocentric model, you didn't even look at the stars. I didn't either. Nobody does. And I thought, like, people that were into it, they would have so much knowledge when I brought up flat Earth. I thought they would talk about all this high-tech stuff. And but I had to learn the heliocentric model when I tried to debunk flat Earth. Yeah. I know more about it's amazing how much more I know about that model than your average person. And it's like, I know it's bullshit. and you, it's just amazing. It's a great deception. Now, here's the thing, though. Like, I don't think that I don't want to say for sure that it was invented to deceive and hide God, even though that's what it did. Like, there's no that it's possible, but there's no real evidence. I like to look at it more like 500 years ago, Copernicus or Galileo or whichever one of those
Yeah.
had an idea that he ran with an idea that was out there, but cool, kind of like the same way we look at space now. And people were like, ooh, yeah, maybe it's that. And they ran with it. And maybe the math worked until like this century when they started having, like aviation and then they realized, oh no, that shit was a nerd theory back in the 1600s that everyone ran with, and it actually is flat. But what do we do now? Shit, we can't tell anybody. And really, maybe the whole reason it's been, suppressed isn't so much that that was a grandiose plan that's just been 400 years in the making. It might just be like a dumbass plan 400 years ago that got so big and just this last 100 years, we're like, they're just doing damage control to make sure that our fragile little minds don't freak out.
Yeah.
Because how do you tell the whole world that we were wrong about this? So they implemented NASA in 1958 after the ice wall, or after
Operation High
Admiral
Jump.
Byrd, yeah, all that stuff. It was like right when they just tried, shooting bombs in the air, do all this stuff like Antarctic Treaty, you can't go there, and then NASA, and all of a sudden we're just starting to get movies, CGI, all this fantasy.
Mhm.
It's like, wow, that's how. I don't know. I don't think it would be this hard if that wasn't so much like so pushed on us. It
Yeah.
made the nonsense lie kind of cool. All the science fiction movies, people loved it. Twilight Zone, Star Trek, all this stuff. It's
Yeah.
like, and from a kid, the thing I wanted to do was just see Earth from space. And now I know that'll never happen because there's no space.
Yeah. Right.
And it's just, but because of that, like, I thought it was so cool. I read The Martian, the book, and cried like an asshole. And when they got there, and it's there's something about these theories, but like we tend to take they're doing it to deceive you thing, and we don't really know. And but I look at flat Earth as in the world of a crossword puzzle. I love making this example. You have a crossword puzzle, and say like the big long one in the middle, or you think it has enough letters, you think you have the right answer. It's pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
A 7-letter word that ends with Y that is a force that makes things go down. You're gonna write in gravity. Okay, well, it could also be density. And maybe it was density the whole time, and maybe all the other words that were attached to that word that you're trying to make fit with gravity is making this crossword puzzle kind of work. Like it has to be gravity, so 5 down is gonna start with a D instead of a G, and so you think of all, and we're just filling in this crossword puzzle. Seems kind of wrong, but we refuse to admit that that word gravity is wrong in that puzzle. And what flat Earth does is like it erases that word and it makes the puzzle look like a real puzzle again. And all of it's like, oh, this is flowing right. This makes sense. There's a reason why this puzzle was so impossible to solve. The damn word in the middle was wrong. So I forget where we were going on this.
We were just talking about, the deception. You were saying that, maybe it was just Copernicus, just kind of like, well, maybe it's this, and people ran with it. I kind of think like there's a really important episode to watch on Crow 777. If you just go to crow777radio.com and search Tycho Brahe, it talks all about Tycho Brahe. He did the most observing of the night sky, and he calculated and tabulated like how many stars. He has the most stars written down of anybody ever. I think even still today. And he was an actual astronomer. And
Yeah.
like Copernicus, his was philosophy, his was of thinking. Like he thought it up in his head. I don't know that he was I know he was a Jesuit priest, but in this journey of finding out what it is and what it isn't, I've seen where people that don't want to believe in God or a creator, they did not like the earth being central. They didn't
Hmm.
want everything out there to be revolving around us. Everybody says like, oh, what do you think? You're the center of the universe. It's like funny little cliche thing, but we are central. We are important. We are unique. We are beautiful. We're uniquely made. And that's the truth. And so they said, no, no, no. Obviously, they changed it a few times. They were like, okay, the earth isn't the center, the sun. They said, our sun's the center. And then they said, no, our sun's not the center. There's billions of suns, et cetera, et cetera. So now we're in a place where we're a tiny speck, a little rock that just barely is hanging on because a meteor could take us out, or if we smash into something with all our sling and going, we're over. Like during the stream, if we run into something at the speeds we're going, it's over, lights out. But that's not true. Like it's not true that we're going to run into
Yeah.
anything because we're stationary, we're protected, and we are favored. I wrote down here.
Yeah, it's exactly how it seems.
Just in case somebody that's listening doesn't know this, they say that the Earth is spinning at 1,040 miles an hour at the equator. So keep the spin going in your mind. The Earth is moving around the sun at 66,600 miles an hour. And the sun, this is what most people don't understand, is the sun is rocketing through space because the sun's going around the Milky Way galaxy. And I found different figures, 486,000 to 536,865. So you have this sun that's like slinging around the whole Milky Way. And the planets that they told us when we were in school, the 9 planets are revolving in the same direction in a pancake flat manner. So think of a plate revolving around the sun as the sun is rocketing through space, and everything is keeping up because of gravity. For one, if there was a big bang, a random explosion that shot things all over the place, why would they all be going in the same direction, and why would it be pancake flat? I found out that's the only way the math would work. We're flat, we're stationary, but they had to make our solar system flat to trick us into believing that that's what's going on. But it gets worse.
But then there's like the great attractor that everything's going around at like 2 million miles an hour too. It just
the Milky Way galaxy, because the sun is moving around the Milky Way galaxy at 500,000 miles an hour, but the Milky Way galaxy itself moves at 1.3 million miles an hour. And this will get you. The universe is expanding 45 miles a second into nothingness. That's 163,296 miles an hour expansion rate. So if you take every single one of these vectors and movements and motions and slinging and winging, we're literally, the story that they're selling us is that we're lost in space, going insanely fast. And if anything goes wrong, we're all dead. So let's just hope that nothing goes wrong. And then they throw in a wobble. They say every 6 to 14 years, the Earth wobbles 20 to 60 inches. But listen to this. If you're not a flat earther, you haven't let go yet, listen to this. If there's a 60-inch wobble and all the metric tons of water, if you're at the ocean and you see it lapping up gently, it just gently laps up and goes back into the ocean, right? If there's a wobble, we're talking cataclysmic disaster. You should see, typhoon, monsoons. You should see complete destruction if we wobble every 6 to 14 years. And like another example you can do is fill a plate, like fill a dinner plate to the brim with water and walk in a circle and see how much sloshes out as you barely, wiggle, because all these movements I just told you about, they're not perfect circles to where you couldn't feel anything. They're elliptical. So that means that we speed up and we slow down all the time. All these motions are not perfect circles. And that means that all life would be vaporized. Like we'd be dead if we went from millions of miles an hour and it tweaked to like 600,000 miles an hour slower and speed back up. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's the biggest thing that people tell you. Like, why don't we feel it? They say they'll say, oh, it's a constant velocity. Well, if the sun is slowing down every year, that means it's an elliptical path. Otherwise, if it wasn't slowing down, then it would be a circle. Then you can make that if it was a perfect circle, but it doesn't. Yeah, according to their math, because our sun does slow down every year, the only way they can explain that is actually have an elliptical path in the heliocentric nonsensical model. So when people say, oh, why don't we feel any the speed? And they say it's because we're just constantly, just like we're on a freeway, even though that makes zero sense because it's not in a convertible, and not, we're going in a circle, not straight line. Like if you were on like a merry-go-round, doesn't matter if you're going a constant velocity, you're going to feel it. Try jumping up on a merry-go-round. You're not going to end up in the same spot. Doesn't matter. But like the fact that like, yeah, if you look at the math, because of what they say, like we should slow down and speed up like through the seasons. Well, I don't know what my camera's doing. It's acting weird.
No,
but yeah, like that one, I don't understand like how they, what, that's the biggest part of the heliocentric model is when you start looking into like what the accepted thing is, you hit a wall. You're like, wow, there's nothing. There's literally nothing. Like what happens? Where does space meet atmosphere? What's the official explanation? It's like, there's really nothing. Nobody knows. These questions, it's almost like everybody knew that it was bullshit, but just don't want to ask. So it was nobody's job to like come up with it. They're like, yeah, that sounds fine. Okay. Yeah, that's good. And that's the most maddening part. But, it's fun. I love hearing you say this stuff, man. I like all these proofs. It's just, I know that mindset of like, there's this proof, there's this proof, there's this proof. Well, like, it's so fun. What else you got?
I wrote down my progression on the back of this page here.
Cool.
So I was told that the earth was flat. And then what I wanted to do, my desire, deepest desire, all I cared about, and my wife was like, what are you doing? All I wanted to see was naked, NASA fakery. Like anything NASA was doing that was fake. Just looked up moon mission stuff. I looked up just anything I could find where they were caught on camera on wires, or that didn't look right, or this can't be right. And then it went further into like biblical cosmology. It's like, okay, so I'm convinced that NASA and what they put up is just production. I mean, basically NASA is like Hollywood because, Walt Disney was really good friends with, the whole gang. So then I started asking, like, what is this world? And I wanted to figure out, okay, we're enclosed and we live in a pressurized system and everything's about perspective. And like, how does the sun appear to come up and go down, even though it's at the same height all the time? The whole thing that Austin teaches about everything sorts itself out with buoyancy, density, electromagnetism, and electrostatics. And that's it. That's what's really out there to manipulate and to be scientific with. When you throw gravity in there, it's like, that's a belief. You have to believe gravity is the downward force.
And it's a psyop when you there's something kind of scary about saying there's no gravity, because I was afraid that people would just think that I am just blatantly not acknowledging that things go down. That was something got like pushed into me as a kid where like, if I question gravity, people are going to think that I'm so crazy that I don't acknowledge when things go down. Like, I'm just like, I don't see that. Like, that's what I was afraid people, and honestly, like some people literally react as if I'm saying that. And, you have Neil deGrasse Tyson came out on Comedy Central and he's like, he drops that microphone, that's gravity, bitch, or whatever. Yeah. Like, and people are like, oh yeah, so smart, give it to, and there's like questioning gravity is basically being so dumb, being a blithering idiot that you don't recognize that. Right. And I was afraid to talk about, like, it's just like, until I formulated actual like word, it was just like this weird foggy cloud in my head of like, I'm just not going to go there. But when I start thinking about it and learning enough and arming myself with actual specific words and details, I knew how to combat that energy and rise above it easily. It's
Mhm.
just that there's all these little things. I mean, I remember in 5th grade, my teacher talking about flat earthers being stupid and all of us laughing about it. And it's just, there's something there. There's like, I don't know. It shouldn't have been this hard. It should, because we're reversing stuff that's been
Yeah.
ingrained. And
Yeah, man.
what's your
Uh,
best flat Earth proof, if you mind me asking?
uh,
What?
yeah, I was thinking about that. Honestly, once I started to look at the sky more and I started to see the moon very, very brightly shining on the clouds that it was right next to, but all the other clouds, like basically this one right over here is not being affected by the moonlight. But then I'd say, well, if it's supposed to be 238,000 miles away, it should be lighting up every cloud that I can see right here. I was like, no, this is like hitting this one right there. And then same thing with the sun. You look at it and you're like, that's blasting that little group of clouds, and all these other ones are left alone. And if it's 94 million miles away, that doesn't make any sense dealing with light rays so then once I could see the heliocentric model, the sun and the moon are not at the distance that they say, because they don't act in the sky. You can see every day that there's clouds, that they interact with the clouds differently than the dumb model that they push on us. That's one.
Yeah.
The movement one, I
Well,
mean, if you move your head back and forth even this much, our inner ears are designed to know when we're still and to know when we're moving. Those speeds I read off to you just a minute ago, you can't stop telling me we're moving that fast, and they go, it's relative. No, those are some massive amounts of speed in multiple vectors, and yet the water is glass still.
yeah, I thought those, like, whenever I say stuff like that, they never worked. Like, I thought it would, but when I talk about, like, I don't like what we feel, because those are those are the questions I had when I was a kid that got squandered. And I feel like if I say, do you feel like you're moving? Do you see a curve? Like, those are things I said to myself when I was a kid. And I'm like, and then somehow I was told something, and I put a button on it. I'm like, I guess so. So for some reason, like, those things, they are actual good questions,
Mhm.
but I don't know, something got guarded. For me, the inverse square law for
Right.
moonlight. Are
Yeah,
you familiar with that one?
totally. Do you want me
That
to try
one,
to?
when I discovered the inverse square law, and for anybody who's watching, how that works, how light works is, uh, if you have like a light in front of you, if you half the distance, it's 4 times the lumens. So if you have, let's just say a light that's doing 10 lumens 10 feet in front of you, hypothetically, meaning if you moved closer 5 feet, it would be 40 lumens. And that is a universal law of
Mhm.
light. And when you look at how far they say that moon is and how many lumens it projects onto us, and you do the math, they would be, by their math, like, you would be incinerated if you got just a few thousand miles away
Super
from
bright.
that thing.
Super bright,
And
right?
for me, I honestly thought that should be, I walked around thinking that would be the best proof. Like, nobody can argue that, but it just went over people's heads. And I
Mhm.
realized it wasn't a good argument for some reason. They literally think we went to, like, people are walking on a moon. And when you say things like, but that means it's like 60,000 million lumens and
Mhm.
walking on that, and like, you look, like, you can't just turn down the exposure a little bit on that much light to, like,
No.
have it look like that. And uh but everybody's proofs are different. And
Yeah.
I I like hearing, I mean, I like getting a recourse in it. Like, I don't talk about proofs as much on my channel because I don't know. I feel like I don't know what's the point. Most people that are probably watching. Is there anybody in the chat who's never heard of flat Earth? I would
And
love to know.
there's
You
people
know,
talking a bunch.
let's
I haven't
see.
said anything to them. Let me tell you this while you're looking at the chat real quick. This whole thing, this whole deal, honestly, is like a magic show. where the people that are awake, like you and I, we understand the tricks that they're
DNF flat
using.
what?
What? Yeah,
Sorry, what?
we're understanding the tricks that they're using to make us fooled. And so you have people that are asleep and they want to go to the magic show and be mesmerized and be like, ooh, how did he do that? That was amazing. It's magic. And it's almost like when you go up to somebody and you flat smack them, they might be pissed because they enjoy the magic show that's being presented to them constantly. And it's almost like you have to ask permission. Hey, can I tell you how this trick's being done? And if they say no, I like my life. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, that's another thing. Like, it depends on how healthy mentally you are when you present it. For a while, it pretty much was me, like, to my friends, like, hey, you got to see this. And I'm basically saying, hey, be like me. I'm having a great time over here. Don't you want to look at this and go insane with me? Come on. Like, I didn't really offer a package that really was. It's like, why would I look into flat Earth and lose friends and credibility and sanity? Who wants to do that? And so as it gets more and more normalized, and more people see it, like it's just so much easier to be not convincible, but to make it look like,
Yeah.
It's just watching it from the beginning was really just mind blowing, because you gotta understand, when I first looked into it, it was a few channels. Like, it just got recommended. Like, I'm like, there's no way something this big I'm learning from a guy like who has like 50,000 or like 20,000 subs, there's no way this is how I learned this.
Yeah, right.
Like, it just didn't make sense. I'm like, this is so stupid. How am I learning this from a guy like, who, just is okay at streaming, but it had nothing to do with that's the only way it could have, if I think about it. It wasn't going to come out on the nightly news or even like Alex Jones level shit. Like,
Right.
It couldn't have. It's the only way it could have.
Yeah.
And I realized, like, well, if this was going to happen, this is how it would happen. It's just weird. It's really weird, and it's cool to see it grow.
Well,
What do you think?
Telegram and what's that other one? Not BitChute, it's Discord. So Discord and Telegram, people are able to chat, and so there's a Discord channel that's about like flat community or whatever. But here's something I've noticed: this channel has atheists, Muslims, people that are actually in Israel, like people all over, and we get on live video and we're like, hey, what do you think? And we're talking flat Earth stuff. And it doesn't matter what our religion is. It doesn't matter what our belief is, because we're not arguing over faith stuff. We're talking about what is reality, like what is outside our door right now, because it's definitely not what NASA has been telling us for a long time, or even what Copernicus thought it was. So what I'm finding that's beautiful is, in the truth movement, truth community, flat Earth community, all that, generally you have people that are sick and tired of being told how we're supposed to get along. Because really, if you look at this, everybody is pushing, like the government's pushing division. If we're divided, then we're not getting along, then they can manipulate us like a puppet, control us like a puppet. But if you can talk to somebody that has differences and come at it with love, like, hey man, I know we don't think alike, but we live on an amazing plane, and it's electric in nature, and there's a firmament above us. And like, that's almost like reawakening the inner child within every person. Doesn't matter if you're 60 years old, you can be like, say what? And you can start learning what reality is and not what some false narrative is. And that's what I love about it. It's like, I'm to the point where I don't care. That's why I'm even on here now on video. I don't care what any man thinks about what I think about the Earth. Like you said earlier, if I'm wrong, if I've been deceived by flat Earth, then all I'll say is, man, that was weird. I can't believe I went down that rabbit hole. It's not going to end my soul.
Whoops. No,
you know what I mean?
It's not. No, that's the thing. Like, people think that like these truthers are just people that just love being right, like narcissistic. Like, I love being right. I love being right. No, it's just we're so sick of being lied to, and like
Uh-huh.
maybe I personally have a belief that like if you're like a truther like me, like it's probably stems from like some sort of traumatic not understanding growing up, and so it's just like I'm reliving trauma by like always questioning reality, and I think there's a lot to that, but it never comes from a place of just being I want to show you that I know things. It's like at a certain point, maybe in the beginning, but when you start going down the rabbit hole, you start discovering things that are beyond our own selfish, egotistical reasons. And you start being like, wait a minute, like this has humbled me. Um, I somehow I got to this place and I looked when I discovered like a lot of this, I just immediately thought of humanity and I thought like they're fucking teaching kids just straight up lie. Like it made me mad. I'm
Yeah.
like, this isn't cool. I can't just sit and be like, oh, okay. Now everybody else keep going on with like it's if you have any empathy, and I do, like as far as like I have a lot of love for like humanity as a whole. I just always have. I just like that's kind of where my jam is. And it same thing with the COVID thing. Like I just like this is ridiculous. Like there has to be like the movement is for flat Earth, in my opinion, at the time. Like it wasn't big enough where I can be like, oh yeah, they got this. I felt like inclined to kind of like try to get in here and be like, hey, can I cheerlead this? Can I help in some way? Like I'm not gonna like I'm not a huge science guy where I'm gonna do a channel on like getting the minutia of it, but like I can learn it and I can applaud it
Yeah.
and I could show that doesn't bother me, just like you said. And I think that's helpful because it's scary, you know? And
Yeah.
can I show you something real quick?
Yes.
I wanted to show you there is oh shoot. Well, never. I guess I can't at the moment. It's on a different browser. But I found this YouTube where it said this girl. I'm talking about COVID now, or let's just say cooties. And she said, "I am gone blind, and I can't read anymore." She had one of these channels where she would read books, and she says it's because of long COVID. And now, and everyone in the description is saying, and I'm not saying this to scare you at all or nothing. I'm not. I just want to know like the mindset.
Yeah.
Everyone in the description is like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And then one person was like, "Are you sure it wasn't the vaccine?" I mean, oh shoot. Oh, are you sure it wasn't the? I got nothing. But and sure enough, it wasn't. It definitely wasn't. Totally wasn't. But in this context, she said, no, I know 100% it wasn't because after I took it, I got cooties, and that's how I know. And it was just the logic was so like it made zero sense. But then like everybody in the chat was like, oh, yep, you know. And I'm like, wow, this isn't like a lot of people are so just not even willing to look at what's going on. Like they're just like, oh, it must be this. Yeah, it's that. It's that for sure. Yeah. And it's what I'm realizing is that like what we're dealing with right now, like it's not back to normal. Like we have some people who saw it and are still dealing with the trauma of it, but you have a majority of people that aren't even recognizing the trauma of it. They're still in it. They're still in that bond. And this ain't over. Like I can't, my instincts is that it ain't over. Do you, like, can you relate at all to during the pandemic where your mind was kind of doing something similar to flat Earth, where you're like, just like with the globe, like it felt like flat Earth all over for me with COVID. I'm like, what's real? What isn't? And it got to a certain, for me, I was pretty good from the start, but watching people like go, I don't know, like, I'm just curious to know, like for you, like at what point, like, okay, let's say like you didn't have to like wear a mask so much because you said you're a stay-at-home dad, so that's good. I was watching Owen the other day and he was saying that if you were wearing a mask during the summer of love, when they did the "we can't breathe" thing,
Yeah.
while wearing a mask. Like if you were able to, if you didn't have to work during all that and have to be like, I'll do anything to get this thing off, and I'll even take this to take it off, and like go through that whole psyop, like you're pretty much out. But the ones that really got sucked in were the ones that just didn't question it from the start and just kept being like, okay, just 2 more weeks, no problem, just 2 more weeks, just 2 more weeks.
Yeah.
And to the point where they'll just believe anything. It's like, if I asked a friend, can I borrow? Hey, can you give me $1,000? They'll be like, no, fuck you. If I say, okay, can I borrow $1,000? I swear I'll pay you back in 2 weeks. I swear it. And then they're like, oh, you swear in 2 weeks? I'm gonna need. I got rent. I'm like, dude, I got you, bro. 2 weeks max, like probably a week. Gives me the money. 2 weeks goes by, dude. You don't understand. I need one more week. And I can do that forever. But as soon as I get that money, now that guy's fucked, and that's what we did. We handed it all over. Mm-hmm. And then we're just saying, okay, can we get our money back, please? Oh, yeah. It's just things have been rough, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And it was just that for 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's psychologically just, if I'm constantly believing that I'm going to pay my buddy back or he's going to pay me back, like for 2 years, like at a certain point, like after a year, I'm like, I don't know. Like, when do you realize, he's never going to fucking pay me back? That was stupid. You cut your losses.
Yeah.
But we're talking about something more important than just $1,000. We're talking about how our structure works, how our bodies, our health, our loved ones, our freedom. We're talking about everything. And, did Flat Earth have anything to do with, like, you woke up to Flat Earth during the pandemic, and it seems like right around the same time you were like, oh, this is a scam. Mm-hmm. And so will you say on the record that like Flat Earth is what did it? Like Flat Earth, like because of Flat Earth, you saw the scam.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That's awesome. That's fucking awesome. And you did it in a positive. It was in a positive way. You didn't feel shame. They weren't like, don't you see? Like a lot of people were pointing out facts. Look at the statistics. Look at the CDC numbers. Look at the various numbers. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at that. Mm-hmm. And none of that really was as effective as we were hoping. Yeah. But I always thought that just don't need to tell them any of that minutia. Don't tell them any of that shit. Just show them a positive deception like Flat Earth. And they'll figure that out on their own, as they should. And I'm so happy. I can't tell you how happy I am. Like, you are proof in the pudding, because it was something that I've thought since day one. I'm like, we don't have to wake people up to all the horrible stuff. Like, just spreading Flat Earth. It's literally you don't have to go through the same journey I have, and it makes me so happy, man. It really does.
I'll tell you this much. There is a truth movement happening, and truth is coming to a lot of people, I think, in a very organic way. It's almost like there's a changing of the tides or a changing of the age. We're in a different age right this second on this stream than we were in 19 or whatever. And if your listeners or if anybody hears what I'm about to say now, they're going to say this dude's lost his mind, but I don't think I have. I'm not a stupid person. Yes, True Earth woke me up. Yes, it helped me to see that was a deception. But as you get on the truther movement and the truther journey, you realize the things that are important. And Owen has helped me, the bear community has helped me learn this. And Crow 777 talks about this quite a bit as well, that this is a consent-based world. You have to consent. You have to agree or go along with said narratives.
Everything's an offer. It's so true.
Everything's an offer. I didn't know that before. Before, I was just a normie, sheeple, whatever people want to say. I wasn't, a mean sheeple, but I just was that. So I did not know. I was not aware that I was agreeing to certain terms and conditions by watching things on the news or things on TV when I did watch those things or whatever. And I'd be like, oh yeah, that must be true. Okay, I'll go along with that and I'll conform and I'll do what's needed. And now I'm like, bro, I'm not getting another shot at all. And you know what? I might not be taking medicine unless it's life-saving. Like if I get in a car wreck and I need some stuff to keep me alive, sure. I'm going to try to use the food as your medicine, pure water, rest, keep your stress low, eat as clean as you can. Because I also started learning, like, in the legal system, there's a lot of people that go super crazy with law and like what we're actually what our rights are as human beings. And it's been grappled, like how many rights we actually have as living and breathing human beings. They don't want us to know how powerful we are. So there's all this stuff in place to make us just feel stuck and in jail. Because the truth of the matter is, like, you don't have to pay your property taxes. You don't have to get a fishing license or a hunting license. Like, it's your right to go hunting, but they make us like get registration, insurance, driver's license. Like, of course you still need to do that if you want to play in the system, like Babylon. That's what we're in. Babylon is still now. People think Rome ended. All it did was adopt Christianity and move forward. All the deceptions from the past are still here today. So there's stuff with medicine even. So like, I don't believe that viruses, like a contagious virus, is even real anymore. And there's MDs and there's doctors coming out saying contagion is a myth.
I think I have to just make a disclaimer really quickly that this is an opinion. This is not fact. There's nobody on the show who's a medical anything, and his opinion is wrong. YouTube.
My opinion's crazy. I'm just saying.
You're a crazy guy. Yeah. And scene. All right. We just got done with our script for the last 2 hours on,
okay.
That was good acting. Okay, good. Okay. Moving on. So, proceed.
There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of neat stuff in the world where I'm just going to say I'm alive now. I'm awake. I'm happy. I'm finding love, friendship, connection, and things that matter. And I'm not letting things scare me, because fear-based mind control, I'm not about it anymore.
Yeah. Hey, how about this? I know you got to leave in like 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Let's take like a 2-minute break really quick. And then when we come back, I'm just going to go through some of these. If anybody has any questions in the chats, for some reason, am unable to look at the Rockfin. Are you able to? I cannot. My computer just is taking a dump every time I try to upload that page. Yeah. So I can't see any of the chat over there. But what I'll do in this break, let's take a 2-minute break. If you guys have any questions, I'm going to go through some of the comments so far. And if you guys want to leave a you can super chat. I got a little link in the description, or a tip button, or a buy my album link, all that stuff. Promo code.
I bought his CD today, and it's amazing. If you haven't listened,
thanks, man. Yeah, dude. Great. Okay. Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah, I'm working on the next one. I can't wait. It's been taking a while, but I'm gonna play a quick song. There's one called let's do Here's the New Beginnings. Good. So for you, man, this one's for you. Here's the New Beginnings, and we'll be right back. I'm going to go take a pee break.
Well, I found that I would love to love you if I'd around. My imagination and the sound of falling light. The world looks
All right, we are back. I just want to play a couple little things that from last stream. I'm a big fan. Really quick, this takes a second, and they're completely unrelated to our entire stream, but I think it's funny. So here is this was pretty popular. Corn and corn.
It's corn. Corn. A big lump up. It has the juice.
It has the juice.
I can run a more beautiful thing.
Corn.
All right, here's Snoop.
You ain't nothing but a hound.
Snoop Doggy Dogg, Snoop Digo Double G,
You ain't nothing but a hound.
Big Snoop Dogg, the big boss dog, yeah.
Well, you ain't never caught a rabbit and you ain't no friend of mine.
SC and double OP, Digo Double G.
Yeah. This is There I Ruined It. This is my favorite TikTok channel ever. This one's pretty amazing. Here's Family Guy.
As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I take a look at my life and realize there's nothing left. Cause I've been blasting and laughing so long that even my mama thinks that my mind is wrong.
All right. And one more quick one, because Smash Mouth, I think, is the perfect song to ruin any other song. Here's another Smash Mouth mashup.
Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed. She was looking kind of dumb with her finger and her thumb in the shape of an L on her forehead.
Those are funny.
It's so genius. They ruined it, and it's brilliant. So, all right. So we are back. We got like 15 minutes here. I'm gonna run through some of these comments. There are quite a lot that I didn't. I just want to make sure from the beginning. If there's anything you guys wanted to say in the beginning that I don't get to, I'm gonna start from. Are you able to look at the? Are you on Rockfin? You're not on Rockfin, are you?
I can see it in StreamYard. I can see the chats.
I see those are only the YouTube ones.
Okay.
So I'm really sorry, Rockfin. I don't give you guys as much love, but if you guys are over there, my computer's at max processing, and for some reason, if I do one more thing, it's like it just doesn't work. LaSween loves that. No. Right on. Okay, so take two. So I don't really see much questions, just a lot of good comments. Everybody here looks like they're flat earthers. Parody Bear has some awesome stuff in here. Thanks, Parody Bear. Dude, I'm gonna have to go back and look at all of this. He says, love that Music Guru song I helped write. Yeah, man, that was a lot of fun. Hey, speaking of which, it's kind of funny. My last stream, I opened up my stream with the video. It's amazing. I'm allowed to show it on a stream, but if I upload it, I get a strike.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? I don't know. So, but you've seen that video, right, JT?
Mm-hmm.
You have. So those are all of them. Were some of those like, really? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, some of it was new to me that I need to look into. I was like, whoa, but I like it. I watched it today at the gym.
Oh, yeah, no, it's good. Like some of them in there, I'm like, I don't know, like, I don't really know for sure if Stevie Wonder isn't blind.
No, I thought about that.
I didn't really do my homework on that one, but I think it's funny. I mean, I don't know. It's just not enough. Parody Bear, come on, Crumb. I want to be your buddy and write parodies for you, brother. I have 12 new shook me all night long. Dude, okay, Parody Bear, hit me up on Telegram, please. Let's do some stuff, man, because I love me some parodies. Mm-hmm. It looks like he's got a lot in here. Yeah, parodies are. I think parodies are something, man. I think parodies are like one of the best ways to wake people up. I'm surprised with AI coming out though. They are going to find ways. But if you guys haven't seen it, go back to my stream 2 weeks or like actually the one that's my Hanukkah one. I just improv a song saying things that would definitely not be allowed on YouTube, denying a certain event in World War II history, saying it's a little exaggerated. Using a vocoder seems to work and get past them, so always finding ways. But all right, it looks like it's a lot of the supportive people just saying good stuff. I just want to say shout out to Singe Man, Dean F, Spicy Sarah, Sarah Breslin, Psychotherapy, welcome. Andrew B, Bex, Green Chili Bear, Scotty, No Despair Bear, good to see you again. Bear, of course, to Finale, much love. Mojo Shop. Who am I missing? Byron, what's up? Welcome. Angela Baby Carson. Sween, Chris. By the way, Chris says that astrology is bullshit. No, it's not. Literally, like a natal chart is exactly where the stars were when you were born, and you can provably do it with like you can prove that there's astrology is real. I don't. I will not accept that.
We need to shout out Andrew with Melodome because they're going to do the charity thing on this on January 31st in the evening. Trivity charity for kids homeless. There's a GoFundMe set up, and it should be a pretty fun flat Earth trivia game. Melodome channel.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out for sure. I love Melodome. Like everything they're doing is great. It's very similar. They're doing kind of like a similar thing that I was doing, where it's just like. Okay, we're flat earthers, but we're not like science geeks that are going to make videos about it. We're going to like just kind of, show that there are people. And I think what they're doing is fantastic. And I really need to reach out to them more. I need to do some more shows. But that's it, man. I think if anybody has any more questions, I don't really see much more. Just a lot of love. Great show, says Dean F. Stars send big vibes, accepted the moon does so, why not the other lights of wonder? That's what I love. I love that I'm not like starting a channel with it's so nice to be able to talk like this from scratch. Like if I had momentum my entire life and like building a channel that was kind of like cookie cutter and had like a following, I'd be in hell. Having to be like, all right, guys, thanks for watching the last 5 years. By the way, because you have to talk about what's on your mind. You can't just treat people. And like, I remember going down the rabbit hole, like having fans in my old band, and I just didn't feel like I could connect. I just was just like, what are we going to talk about? Like, oh, you like that song? Cool. All right. I know that sounds arrogant. It just seems so vapid and like it just seems so empty. And to like make stuff on this level is so good. Run Boston Bear, we gotta have you back, man. I have more questions for you, and you are exactly what I knew in my heart that there would be people that would see flat Earth and let everything else kind of figure itself out without having to go through so much cog dissonance, so much. So much despair, because it was, I definitely lost myself a little bit, for a while. And my judgment of characters also kind of got off when I got so desperate to talk to certain people, or, you know what I mean? And that's one thing I would say to the community the most is if you're waking up to this and you feel like you're not reaching enough people to feel like, secure, and so you'll talk to anybody about it. Be careful because it becomes obvious that that there's like an instability there. Like like it seems like an insecurity. I don't know if it's an insecurity, but like it can come across as an insecurity and open up the floodgates for trolls and shit like that. And
Yeah,
those intentions aren't quite what they seem.
for sure.
Yeah, man. So I know you got to get your kids, so I'll let you go, brother. Is there anything else that you wanted to shout out?
No, I mean, I just say I thought about it. With my P1000, I find it interesting that when I'm trying to look at a star, if I tightly focus on the moon and get as much detail as I can with the moon, and I lock that in, and then I move to a star, it's perfect. It's so crisp. Because like sometimes if you're just trying to use the camera to zoom in on a star and it can't really see it, it can't really focus. But it's interesting to me that the focal length to the moon and all the rest of the stuff up there, it's the same. You don't have to change the zoom at all. It's crystal clear. So that's got one more little funny little proof.
Yeah, that one's weird too. Like how, I mean, I've looked into it a little bit, and it's usually written off as there's like infinity zoom at a certain spot where like, but that I know that like the moon, like it's so crystal clear. You mentioned Tycho earlier.
Yeah.
And there's that crater on the moon, Tycho crater. That's officially they say it's the size of Manhattan, and I can see it with my naked eye. And I'm thinking, do you think you'd be able to see Manhattan from the moon? No, it would be so small. There'd be no way you could do that with your eyes. But they're saying that is the size of Manhattan from here. It's the same distance. Makes zero sense. Like we need any more proofs.
Yeah.
Thanks
for having me on.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna end the stream that way we can chat a little bit afterwards, and we have a couple extra minutes. Thanks for being here. And by the way, I don't know if you knew this, but
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Do you understand that? Turn the friggin' frogs gay. Serious crap. Gay. Frogs, friggin' frogs. It's not funny. I'm gonna say it real slow for you. Gay. Frogs. Won't you fight for your life? Gay. Frogs, friggin' frogs. I don't like a frog. Gay. Friggin' frogs. Frogs. Friggin' frog crap. Won't you fight the frogs? It's not funny. I'm gonna say it real slow for you. Frog.
How dare you?
Follow from. Follow from. Follow from.